There's always something going on at Lambeau6. Last year we had over 80 actual weddings here and over 120 wedding receptions. That's in 52 weeks, so you can imagine.
Wow.
Lots of places people can rent and use here at Lambeau6. Well, you can all hear me okay out here?
Yes,
all
sir.
Right, we're overlooking what is called Bob Holland Plaza. Right down below us there are people taking pictures during the fake Lambeau League. Okay, we've got a 3-foot wall down there. It's a little easier than the one in the stadium, which we can't let you use anyway. That one's about 6 feet 2 inches tall. We also have 2 statues down here, and they are statues of some pretty famous people, and let me tell you about them, okay? The one farthest away from us, it's behind that tree, is Curly Lambeau. He's holding the football, he's pointing over here. I think he's telling you that the pro shop has unlimited spending today, so you have to get down there and check it out. Curly Lambeau was a football player, a darn good football player for Green Bay East High School, about 5 miles from here. Green Bay East is still around. In fact, I graduated from Green Bay East. I didn't see Curly, though. I've missed him by about 55 years. Anyway, he was so good, he started as a freshman running back for Notre Dame University. And he played under a coach that some of you might have heard of named Newt Rockne. Now, he only played the 1 year. Why? He came back to Green Bay and he got sick. He got sick with tonsillitis. That's inflamed tonsils and things like that. Starts out as a sore throat. But back then they did not have antibiotics, and that particular illness was sometimes fatal, especially if you were older. But Curly was a young buck, and he still was bedridden for over 8 weeks, and he missed the start of second semester at Notre Dame, never went back. That was good for Green Bay, actually, because he went and got a job in town. He got a job at a place called the Indian Packing Company. He was a meat packer. That's where we got our name, actually. He missed football something fierce, just a young guy, and one day he's walking downtown and he runs right into the sports editor of our local newspaper named George Calhoun. They started talking about football and stuff, and at that time, Green Bay did not have a little town team or a company team or anything like that, and there were a lot of them all over the Midwest and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, okay? So they decided to see if they could get some guys together and form a team. They put an ad in the paper, and on August 11th, 1919, 24 players showed up, and they were the original Packers. So the Packers started in 1919. When we go back inside, you'll see our restaurant is called 1919 Kitchen and Tap. All right, so the Packers are now playing amateur club football, whatever you want to call it. They were pretty good. The first year they played 11 games, and they outscored their opponents 565 to 12. Oh my goodness. Second year was more of the same, and you know, Curly didn't really like it all that much. It's kind of fun winning 87-0 once in a while, but you want better competition. So he heard of a professional football league starting called the American Professional Football Association. $50 to get a team in that league. He went to his employer, which by that time was called Acme Packing Company. They agreed to put up the $50 as long as we put their name on the jersey. You can get those in the pro shop, by the way. Okay. So for 1 year, we were the Acme Packers, but the league was not very well put together, and it fell apart. A new league started the next year. This one was going to last a little longer. This one was called the NFL, the National Football League. So the National Football League started in 1922. The Packers started in 1919. $250 for a team in that league. He went back to Acme Packing, and they said, "Sorry, Curly, times are tough. You're on your own. We're just not going to, we just don't think this professional football is going to catch on." Right. Okay, Curly took his own money, hopped the train to Canton, Ohio, where they were meeting, and got us a team in that league. $250 for an NFL team. How'd you like to pay $250 for an NFL team? Yeah, the last team to join the NFL paid a little more. They paid $700 million to join the NFL. That was the Houston Texans about a dozen years ago. So anyway, the Packers are in the NFL, and Curly's the owner. But after 1 year, he didn't want to be the owner anymore. He was in debt. He owed everybody, it seems, and looked like the Packers were going to be one and done. And that happened to a lot of teams back then. But then, 4 gentlemen came up to Curly Lambeau, and they said, "We got an idea. We love having the Packers play in Green Bay on Sunday afternoons. How about we form a non-profit corporation and sell stock, and we bail you out that way? So they did. They sold 1,000 shares at $5 a share, and the Packers were now solvent again. More importantly, the Packers were now not owned by Curly, they were owned by the fans in the community of Green Bay. We still are. In fact, we are the only professional sports team in the United States that is owned in that fashion. We've had 4 more stock sales. We now have 364,000 shareholders in the Green Bay Packers. Anybody in this group have a share of Packers stock? Here we go. How are you, boss? Okay, the rest of you, you go home, you tell your friends, you tell your neighbors, you went on a tour of Lambeau6 with the owner of the Green Bay Packers. Thank you very much. Okay. I don't think Jerry Jones will do that down in Dallas. Okay. Anyway, Curly was now free to coach. He coached for 31 years. For the first 27 years, he only had 3 losing seasons. But then he started to go a little bit Hollywood on us. He wanted to move the Packers to Los Angeles, but Packers were a corporation. They could not be sold to any one owner. So Curly left us, but he must have jinxed us because we had 10 straight losing seasons. And culminating in 1958, where we only won 1 game, 1-10-1. Coaching staff was fired, and we were on the lookout for a new coach. But there was a problem. Nobody wanted to come and coach the losers in Green Bay. We had 10 straight losing seasons. Nobody applied for the job. Losing team, small town, bad weather. Oh, who wants to come to the Siberia of the NFL? We got help from somebody that we would never have expected. George Papa Bear Hallis, the owner and coach of the Chicago Bears. He loved having the Packers in the league. Why? Because when the Packers played in Chicago, George always had a full stadium and made a lot of money. Because half the city of Green Bay would hop a train down to Chicago when we played down there. Great rivalry. George says, why don't you take a look at this assistant coach for the New York Giants? Never been a head coach beyond the high school level, but I've heard good things about him. So they brought him in. They interviewed him. They liked him. They said, okay, we'll give you a 2-year contract. And he stood up and said, I want a 5-year contract. Whoa. And he says, not only do I want to be coach, I want to be general manager. Double role. And then he says, and I don't want any of you pencil pushers telling me how to run my football team. And you know what the Packers said? Yes, sir, Mr. Lombardi, sir. They said that a lot, okay? By accident, because nobody wanted the job, we ended up hiring the greatest coach in NFL history, the guy with his back to you right there, Vincent Thomas Lombardi. How good was he? Same team that was 1-10-1. The very next year was 7-5. He was coach of the year in the NFL. The next year we were in the NFL title game. We lost it 17-13, but we were on the Eagles' 9-yard line when the gun sounded. Curly went down into that locker room. Players were hanging their heads. And he said, gentlemen, get your heads up. I'm proud of you today. You played a great game. You just ran out of time. And I promise you this, as long as I'm your head coach, we will never lose another championship game. That was a very bold statement by this young coach, but it was a true statement. They played in 9 more playoff games in the next 7 years, won all 9 of them, won 5 NFL championships. 5 in 7 years. To beat that, you'd have to win 6 Super Bowls in 7 years. That is never going to happen. All right? Unbelievable. What a dynasty that we had. Anyway, he burned out a little bit as a coach. He was general manager for a year. Then he went to the Washington Redskins because they could offer him something we couldn't. They offered him part ownership in the Redskins. The Redskins were coming off 14 straight losing seasons. Lombardi coached them only 1 year. 7 wins, 5 losses. Just the same thing he did here. But he never got to coach the Redskins again. The year after that, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he died at this young age of 57. And 1 week after Vince Lombardi died, the commissioner of the NFL said, our championship trophy will forevermore be known as the Vince Lombardi Trophy. We loan it out sometimes. We loaned it out to Denver last year. But you know where it's coming this year? Right back here. That's the past. No, it's not coming to Kansas City. Unfortunately. All right. Any questions on Packer history? Okay, I'm going to take you inside and give you just a couple of brief statements about the atrium, okay? Yeah, go ahead.